Okay, Karen, here's Karen. Elaine left. Yeah. Okay, we are ready to proceed then with public comment. The first person to speak is Rose Welch, to be followed by Yasmera Rodriguez.
Pretty sure it's Yasmara. She's been here a couple times. I feel like we could learn her name. So hi again. I'm Rose Welch, as I'm sure we all know at this point, and I'm here today to talk about city policies and procedures, specifically vis-a-vis the statement that you released last night. But before we get to that, I just want to get one thing out of the way. There's been a lot of talk about what is and isn't council business, and tainting a potential jury pool in another jurisdiction, that's legitimately not council business. Even if it were, video footage is not seen as tainting the jury pool in pretty much any other state, many of which are actually required by law to release the footage right away, within 24 or 48 hours in some cases, for the purposes of transparency and accountability. And let's talk about the jury pool. To have a jury pool, you have to have charges. And out of the thousands of citizens that are killed in this country each year by police forces, only about 5 result in officers being charged. Not 5%, just straight up 5. Out of all those cases, virtually none are found guilty of murder or even manslaughter. In 2013, 0 convictions. In 2014, 0 convictions. In 2015, 0 convictions. In 2016, couldn't find data, but I'm pretty sure we see a trend. In 2017, 1. So let's stop pretending that this is about the officers who murdered Dominique White facing any type of accountability for their actions. Just stop with that hot mess, y'all, because you're not fooling nobody. Anyway, I did find it encouraging that you finally decided to reach out to the Department of Justice, even if it was just for some help communicating. That's really great. And I hope that while you begin this dialogue with the Department of Justice, you ask them to review our city and police forcing policies and procedures with the goal of adopting any and all recommendations. Across the country, we've seen that cities that voluntarily adopt DOJ recommended reforms saw a 32% decline in officer-involved shootings in the first year alone. Even police departments that were forced to take on reforms saw a 25% decline during the first year, including places like Baltimore, which has a solid history of police murders. In Chicago, another city notorious for executing their citizens in the street, saw shootings by cops drop by more than 50%. While the remedies varied from city to city, they shared common elements. Create a citizen review board to provide independent oversight, improve officer training, update use of force policies to stress the importance of de-escalation and the sanctity of life. These are simple things. We can and should do them. Finally, the policy that I really need to see revised immediately is the policy that allowed the media and people like myself the chance to read your statement and actually release news stories about the statement before the family even knew that it existed. I know that you guys aren't individually responsible for sending out those statements, like you don't necessarily choose when the time is, but that's really screwed up. This is the second time in as many weeks that serious exception has been taken with your media officer, and that needs to be addressed immediately. Imagine how that would make you feel if your brother or son or husband or whoever had been murdered and your city leaders released a statement that theoretically was to offer condolences to you, but sent it to everyone else first. From here on out, you really need to center the White family in all related discussions, all related actions. Not yourselves, not how you look in the media, not the people who are bugging you and protesting, but the White family, because that's the right thing to do. And in the meantime, please ask the Department of Justice how we should move forward as a community, so that maybe this time next year, the hardest thing we have to do as a community is decide how to handle pot-bellied pigs. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Yasmari Rodriguez, to be followed by Marty Hilliard.
Good evening. Since I'll go ahead and address the entire council, I would say that I'm quite great at boxing. So let's go. My name is Yasmari Rodriguez. I am a lifelong resident of Topeka, Kansas, and I'm here giving witness to the life of Dominique White and that of his grieving family. I believe that we must pursue policies that transform the city and community into a nation that affirms the value of its people of color. That starts and happens with addressing the 5 central types of violence waged against Black, brown, and indigenous Americans: physical, legal, political, economic, and environmental. I'm specifically here today to address physical and legal violence perpetuated by the state. Sandra Bland, Michael Brown, Rakia Boyd, Eric Garner, Freddie Gary, Jessica Hernandez, Tamir Rice, Jonathan Farrell, Oscar Grant, Antonio Zambrano Montez, Samuel Du Bois, Anastasio Hernandez Rojas, and Anthony Moore Smith. We know their names, and each one of them died at the hands of police officers or while in police custody. And none of those officers were convicted of those crimes that they did against those citizens. We know and now, unfortunately, are adding Dominique White's fate, his name to that list, as we await the DA's decision. People are angry and they have every right to be, but we should not fool ourselves into thinking that this violence only affects those whose names have appeared on TV or in the newspaper. African Americans, as you know, are twice more likely to be arrested and almost 4 times as likely to be experience use of force during encounters with the police officers. African American and Latinos comprise well over half of all prisoners, even though African Americans and Latinos make up approximately only 1/4 of the U.S. population. We are far from eradicating racism in this country, and specifically here in Topeka. Today in America, if you are black or brown, you can be killed for getting a pack of Skittles, Trayvon Martin, or while sitting in the park minding your own business, Dominique White. This violence fills all of us with outrage, disgust, and a deep, deep sadness, because these hateful acts of violence they amount to acts of terror, essentially. And it is an outrage that we are seeing intolerable acts of violence being perpetuated by police and then being condoned by city council members and governments. Then we wonder why a growing number of our communities do not trust police. These are the reasons why. Law enforcement officers have become so disconnected with communities that they are serving and have sworn to protect. Violence and brutality of any kind, particularly at the hands of police who are meant to protect and serve our communities, is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. We need a societal transformation to make it clear that Black Lives Matter and racism, classism, and a power hierarchy will not be accepted in a civilized country and in this city. Change that by not asking us to erase the past for you, but instead publicly acknowledge your wrongdoing. Change that by being the leaders that we voted for, who are not afraid of us, but stand up for us. Change that by doing right by a family who has been unjustly treated. Change that by not making it about you, but making it about their unheard cries, their unanswered questions, and that of the life of Dominique White, whose life was taken far too soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Marty Hilliard, to be followed by Hannah Hansen.
Good evening. My name is Marty Hilliard, and I'm here today to discuss meetings and discussions. In 2016, our community tried to meet with Topeka's leadership to address the city policies and police forcing practices, which had created an environment of distrust and fear in our community. For a variety of reasons, this meeting failed. In 2017, our community was further wounded when those same police forces, using the same policies and the same practices, shot and killed Dominique White. It is heartbreaking to consider that this might have been prevented if the community and the leadership had been able to come together on the topic of our policies and procedures. A consequence of this failure was the death of Dominique White. With this in mind, we have since repeatedly sought your leadership. We have called, we have had meetings, we have shown up to speak in person, we have written you letters, we have Facebook, tweeted, and used every conceivable method to reach you, our leadership, to hold a special session and to give this matter the time and sensitivity it deserves. We realize that this is difficult for everyone involved, and as a result, we'll be hosting our own special meeting to which you are invited. Here's an invitation. Being passed around right now are your personal invitations, and we very much hope that you will join us. We're going to save places for you right up front, where you can see both the speakers and the audience, and they can see you. You'll know which seat is yours because we'll have a placeholder for you. And when you arrive, just move your place card and settle in to listen. If you're not able to make it, we'll keep you in our hearts and prayers. This meeting will take place on Wednesday, December 20th at 6 p.m. at the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library. This meeting is completely open to the public and to the media. We have flyers available tonight for community members. You can find the event on Facebook or simply join us at the library. We'll also be live streaming the event for those community members who would like to engage from home. We'll be coming together to listen to the family of Dominique White publicly speak about the impact of the death of their loved one. We'll be coming together to speak about the city policies and police forcing practices which have troubled our community. We'll be coming together to speak about transparency and accountability and how we can move forward as a community. We'll be coming together to speak about what education is needed and what actions can be taken to begin to repair this breach. And we'll be standing together to ensure that we never again need to discuss the potential homicide of a citizen at the hands of our police forces. I hope that you can join us at our special meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Brian Moore, to be followed by Hannah Hansen. Is Brian Moore here? Okay. Hannah Hansen, is that Brian? Okay.
Hi. I'm here today because I'm confused. A man was murdered in our community and we spent 2 weeks discussing pot-bellied pigs. A man was murdered in our community and we spent 2 weeks discussing sales restrictions for adults. A man was murdered in our community and we spent no time discussing that a man was murdered in our community. Most of the people I've spoken to are just as confused as I am. But a few of us have tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're afraid of our ability, they said. Maybe they don't know what to say. Maybe they're just as confused as we are. I understand. It's a scary situation for all of us. But please allow me to suggest 4 things to each of you that you can say to any one of us or all of us without any implication of liability. 1, tell me how this has affected you. I'm listening. 2, what have you seen in our community that you believe may have contributed to this event? 3, what measures do you think we can take to improve our community? And 4, is there anything else you would like to say on this topic? Once again, I'm listening. Right now, cards with these 4 questions are being passed to each of you so you don't forget. I hope that this helps you find your words and your way back to our community. And I hope you come to our community meeting on December 20th. Once again, it's at the Topeka County and Public Library from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Marvin. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you for your comments. Hannah Hansen, to be followed by Sarah Oglesby.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Hansen. I've been a Topeka citizen for the majority of my life, and I am here to offer support to Dominique White's family and to also address city business with you all. So last week, City Manager Brent Trout told a constituent that the council would not call a special meeting because they felt as though the topic of Dominique White's death was not city business. But what is the business of a city but its people? What are the taxes for? The streets, the schools, the playgrounds, the art districts? What is this building even for, if not for the people? I didn't understand, so I researched the character roles of our elected and appointed leadership. The mayor is responsible for providing leadership and taking issues to the people. The mayor is responsible for coming up with recommendations concerning the affairs of our city and bringing them to the council. The mayor is responsible, and it says it twice, for providing community leadership. The business of a broken community and methods of repair are the mayor's business. In the face of a broken community, the mayor has no greater business, and that's what we're facing here in Topeka, and let's keep it real, we've been facing that for a very long time. The city manager is responsible for appointing, disciplining, and even firing all heads of departments and all of the employees under those heads. The city manager is responsible for coming up with recommendations concerning the affairs of our city and bringing them to the council. The city manager is responsible for investigating the affairs of the city under their supervision. What the police department has done to our community is the city manager's business. When the community reports troubles, as they did in 2016 and were silenced, it is the city manager's business to investigate and make recommendations to repair to the council and the mayor. The business of a broken police force is the city manager's business. In the face of the immense and deadly power carried by our broken police forces, the city manager has no greater business. The city council is responsible for supporting the mayor and city manager and representing their constituents. Dominique White resided in District 3 and was murdered in District 3. People live in fear in District 3. The business of the broken life of Dominique White is the business of District 3. In the face of broken citizens, District 3 has no greater business. Our city as a whole is wounded and bleeding before you. Guiding and maintaining and improving and healing our city is your business as a whole. The business of the peace and liberty of our city is the city council's business. In the face of broken peace and broken liberty, the city council can have no greater business than addressing the death of Dominique White. So I strongly encourage all of you, if you're able to come to next week's meeting, to hear the community and Dominique White's family. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Sarah Oglesby. I'm sorry, you know.
Ms. Hannah,
Councilwoman
I just want
Ortiz.
to comment. Our border lines get moved, and so Ripley is not in District 3 anymore. It's in District 2. Although, I'm sorry? District 2, although I do spend a lot of time over there. I just want to make that correction.
Thank you. Sarah Oglesby.
I come with more Christmas gifts or Hanukkah gifts or just gifts of the season. I put out a call to members of our community for 3 books that I thought would be really helpful to you all. I gave out a couple of them last time I was here to our manager and mayor to pass on to our mayor-elect. And I have 2 more. One is the Michelle Alexander book that talks in general about incarceration. And 2, a really excellent book by Brian Stevenson called Just Mercy. I may end up with more copies, and as members of our community respond to that invitation to get copies to all of you, in the meantime, I hope that you will pass them around and that they will be a beginning source of conversation. The other book that I passed out last week was called Pulled Over, and I explained that it was written by some professors from KU who did extensive research on policing and racial profiling, and specifically looking at the use of the investigatory stop and the ways in which it puts community members at risk, especially people of color and communities of color. I really hope that you will take these as an invitation to engage in education and deepening your understanding. As somebody with a master's degree in public administration, and had at one point in my life thought maybe I would be a city manager or working in community development. Instead, I'm a minister. I know that you don't all get into this work because you have a specific interest in policing or in criminology. I happen to also have a background in sociology and government, and so I do have some interest in that, but if I were in your seats, that might not have been the area that I had spent a lot of my time learning. Some of you know more about land use policy or the safety net for folks in this community. There may be other pieces of business that you know more about. It's really, really important for us as a community, if we are to build a place of hope for how we move forward, that we take seriously how we learn and what we learn about to make good decisions about how we change. I want to echo what Rose said about working with the Department of Justice and getting some good pointers from them about what we need to be doing in this community and how we compare to other communities. I think it's really easy in a smaller community. When I first moved here, I heard Topeka referenced as the biggest small town in America. I didn't understand that till I lived here. I get it. But one of the things that we run into the risk is that we behave like a small town when we're not a small town anymore. And one of the ways that we do that is to not look up and see what's happening in other cities like ours and what can we learn from the mistakes that they've made or the changes they've made that we ought to be making also. So we can no longer afford to just look internally. A book that I just read by Peter Block called Communities, The Structure of Belonging talks about bridging social capital as the most important piece of a functioning democracy. And I say that to you because bridging capital is about bringing people together in contexts where they might not normally come together. Some of the folks who've come to speak to you this last few weeks, and even from Topeka Jump, are folks who might not normally be in this context, and we need to see you reaching out to a wide range of folks to create that bridging social capital, not just the bonding where we get to know people who are like us, but the bridging that puts us into context with people and parts of our city we might not normally know or know very much about, and putting them together in conversations that help us grow. So that's my hope, that's my prayer for you over this season, And I look forward to seeing how we move into this next few steps. Please read the books.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Councilwoman Delisa has a comment.
Thank you, Mayor Wolgast. I will speak for myself as I'm not speaking for the body right now, but I do want to say I'm sorry. Because I can tell you that the heart and the intent of sending the release was not for the family to be bypassed. It really was sincerely a condolence. And I want to just say, I mean, the staff, that it was not a heart of trying to send information to the media. It happened, point has been taken. I'm sorry. And Ms. Nguyen and I have talked several times, and I am looking forward to being there on the 20th and to listening to the 4 things that have been requested from us here. I would encourage everybody else to go ahead and also make a time to go and to listen. I really appreciate the way that the discourse happened tonight. It makes it so much easier for us to be able to listen. So thank you very much. This is helpful. We're here, we're listening. Thank you very much.
I want to say on behalf of the governing body, the statement that was put together that was released last evening was an effort by everyone to express, to agree to a statement. That's very difficult to have 10 individuals agree on what a statement is going to be. There was discussion and some people who felt differently about some of the things that were said. But we all respect one another's opinion, and among the 10 of us. We felt that was an appropriate response as best we could state at this time. And we understand where you are. We want things to happen as quickly as we can, as quickly as they can, and we feel that very strongly. If there's anyone else, Councilman Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Robertson, our council rules do not permit 4 of us, or more than 4 of us, to be together when the business of the body is discussed. And as everyone has mentioned tonight, this seems to be the business of the body. So is there something we need to do so that more than 4 of the council members could participate in that?
Councilmember Jensen, I can look into what public governmental business means and provide maybe an overview to each of you to provide some guidance before the 20th, so that would be helpful, I hope.
Okay.
I would hate to opine at this time without
And
really
that's
looking
fine.
into
I
it.
don't want to get the body in trouble for participating when we're,
I appreciate
you know,
that.
we're
Appreciate
not
the
supposed to be
question.
together without certain things happening in order for that to be possible.
I appreciate you bringing it up.
Other comments? Councilman Hiller?
I just want to thank you as well for the comments tonight. I said what I did before you spoke, and it was good, and I'll be there on the 20th.
Any other comments? Councilman Emerson?
Also, thank you for your comments tonight. I'm also sorry about what has happened and what you guys are going through. And I do want to tell you, I have a conflict on the 20th, and it's a Christmas party for sheltered living. So I need to do that because I've committed to doing that for them, serving that. So, but I thank you for the invitation. I thank you for hosting that.
Other comments? Councilman Harmon?
Thank you. I too have a conflict on the 20th. It's
I know.
unavoidable, so I'm
I'll be there for part of it. Okay, seeing no other comments, no other business before the council, we are adjourned. I have one. I went at 6:30.